adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm here with our next guest who has got some badass new music, and I have to say, like, it's pretty incredible. I'm always, like, in awe, and you guys are going to laugh, but he's like a one-man band, okay? But he's going to talk about the type of one-man band, because it's not what you think, and, you know, it's amazing. I'm always in awe of people that can do this without like 9 people, you know, or without a whole bunch of people and just make such incredible, full music. And so I'd like to welcome to the show, Dave from Fear of Water. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm doing great. And, yeah, let's start off right there from the one-man band thing, because
Sure.
we were talking off the air and you were saying something and I was thinking it as I was saying it. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
like
think when you
having
say
this picture in my
when you
head.
say when you say one-man band, a lot of people think like the guy that the busker on the street corner with like an accordion and a kick drum on his back and cymbals between his legs and a harmonica in his mouth, and he's doing everything simultaneously. It's not even close to that, but it is when you look at the industry and my genre, and you think about the number of like multiple member bands who are each kind of, specifically focused on their individual instrument and their craft, all making music together, versus how many, Trent Reznor, Dave Grohl, Clint Lowry types, Wolfgang Van Halen types are out there. And the thing is that like with those 4 people that I mentioned, they're like super well established, and they're Wolfie is literal like hard rock royalty, and
Right.
all these guys are incredibly talented and have like a career behind them and an established band and a label. So I'm like coming at it from their perspective without any of the benefit of like a famous family or coming from a famous band, but I have that skill set where I've literally dedicated my entire life to becoming just doing everything I can to master my craft at as many instruments and the process of recording and production as possible. There will always be people better than me, and I've definitely found through navigating one of the many pitfalls of being in a creative endeavor is keeping your ego in check.
Yeah.
And, jealousy and inferiority complexes certainly plague many people in any artistic endeavor. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that like, if you want to live off of what you're doing, you have to like put yourself out there. And that comes with judgment, that comes with an inevitable level of like comparison, either certainly from potential fans and consumers. There's no one out there that's like, I like every band ever, right? You're attracted to certain things. And then once you find a genre, like, okay, I like hard rock music, you're still probably not going to like every single hard rock band. And then when you narrow it down to even like 50 bands, you're still going to have like your top 10 or whatever. So like, to enter that space as an unknown, like I am, I can't help but have a certain degree of, I need to compare myself to my peers. But thankfully I've been of the mindset my entire life of like, there's always going to be people better than me. And it's also worth noting that like talent is unfortunately not, I'm not going to say the most important thing, but it's certainly not a make or break. I know some incredibly talented people who will never leave their basement or will never find any sort of commercial success. And frankly, there are some incredibly popular bands that have a average level of talent, but they well in other areas in terms of like having a commercially viable product and image and label support and everything. So I've seen people who are more talented than me just inspires me. Every time I go to a show, as soon as I leave that show, I want to go home and pick up a guitar. It's like, fuck, man, I am energized and inspired by
Nice.
So to be like playing in the same sandbox as like when you look at the SMR top 50 for the last 14 weeks, my one of my current singles, Codependent Parasites, featuring Elias Soriano of Nonpoint, has been charting for almost 4 months, and it started at like number 48, and it every single week has climbed up, and last week it hit number 10, and I'm literally up there with Shinedown, Papa Roach, Bad Wolves, Foo Fighters, Nickelback, Metallica, Blink-182, all of these huge bands with huge fan bases, all have major label support, all are on Octane. And then there's this like guy you've never heard of out of Austin, Texas, who's making music all by himself and is now doing it with like known, established, relevant, featured performers. And that is really this, I've been doing this literally my entire life, but the last couple of years have really been dedicated to this strategy of continuing to be this one-man band. And that is like my brand. It's a big point of differentiation for me. And it is like what I want to be known for. But every song I'm doing, have been doing, and will be doing for the foreseeable future will be, no album releases. It's all going to be individual singles, trying to cover as much of a range within rock music as possible while still being, completely identifiable as Fear of Water music. But every single song is going to have a featured performer. And I'm also going to really strive to have quite the variety of featured performers as well, ranging from the mellow electronic side of rock to the rip your face off metal. I've already been working with men and women. I want to work with the older generation of music and these new upcoming bands. I find myself kind of in the sweet spot in the middle there. And it's been really exciting, man. Like, it's really cool to see how people have responded. And when I say people, I mean like people on streaming sites. Codependent Parasites has, across the streaming sites, almost 1 million combined streams. It debuted on Octane in December. Like I said, it's been charting on FM stations across the country, getting hundreds of radio plays every week. Huge social media response to it. The Nonpoint community has really embraced it. Again, for a guy that you may have never heard of before. And I'm okay with that. Like, I get that. That doesn't challenge me. I'm not like, you're fucking lost that you don't like. I get that you don't know me. I don't have the apparatus behind me to ensure that you know who I am. And I'm keeping a positive mentality about that it's like my journey is kind of proving that there is still a pulse in running through the veins of independent music and artists. There's still an opportunity to break through without the conventional structure behind you. It's not easy. I can't stress enough how much I've been grinding it out to get to this point, and I still have so much work to do and so much to accomplish. But if you told me even 5 years ago that we would be sitting here right now having this conversation about the success of my recent music and knowing the music that I have coming out on the horizon, I would not believe you at all. So it's even what can happen in 1 year. You and I were talking off the air about this, but in 2022, I went out on tour with Nothing More, and Nothing More was opening up for the headliner in this moment. The band that was opening up for Nothing More was this little known English group of guys called Sleep Token. And they shared a tour bus with us. They shared a trailer with us. They had like a 5-song set. It was totally bare bones. It was early enough in the set that like not even half the people who were coming that night were at the show. And 1 year later, they are selling out their North American tour in minutes. They're headlining Radio City Music Hall and Red Rocks. And I think they beat Metallica last year in terms of streams. Like, wow. They're one of the fastest growing and most popular bands on the planet. And that happened in 1 year. So it's very easy to fall into the trap, especially someone like me, who's like, I'm going to say later in life. Once you're past your like 20s, you start getting this feeling like, oh, I missed it. Like, I missed the train. It's like you have to get a ton of the bands that I like now have guys who are in their 40s and 50s, but they've also been doing it they've aged into those eras, but started in their 20s. So like once I got into my 20s, I was kind of like, fuck, I didn't make it. Like I need to time to go get a desk job. It's been really encouraging to see that there's just still this possibility that this sounds cliche, but it really is never too late. It just matters how
not at all.
you're ready to evolve and go with the flow and roll with the punches. Yeah, man, it's been an interesting journey so far, and I feel like I'm on the precipice of some really incredible shit. I just don't know exactly what it is, but I'm very open to whatever the universe throws at me.
See, that's way cool. And one thing I've noticed about today, okay, as somebody who is old school, you know, and like I do coverage at all these festivals and concerts now. And what I'm always in awe of is all these kids and teenagers that are there to see bands like Metallica and Slipknot, like people that are my age, you know, like, because I remember I was at Metallica's first show ever, and you would never have a 50 some odd year old at a Metallica show back then in the 80s. Okay.
Yeah.
But and even like when you
real
see
quick note on that, the flip side of that is that I was so blown away that I want to say it's either Master of Puppets. Master of Puppets re-entered the charts, the radio charts, decades after that album came out because of its placement on Stranger Things, and this whole new generation is like Metallica. I've never. Oh, are these guys new? It's insane how the ubiquity of other forms of entertainment now can completely revitalize art from the past, but also that also means that it could create this enormous boon for artists who would otherwise never be on someone's radar. So like there's something very exciting about that. And Metallica is a great example of how it's become this like multi-generational. I mean, they're the biggest metal band in the world, but it is really cool how something like that is not defined by a decade and a generation. And I want to see more of that moving forward for sure.
And it blows my mind they're the biggest in the world, because I saw them when there were 25 of us in the club, you know. It was like, who knew? And even another example
with Dave Mustaine and Cliff.
Oh, well, you want to know a story about that? It was actually before Cliff. It was with Ron McGovney. And I'm at this show, and this dude gets off the stage, and he just comes over and starts talking to me, and he hands me his business card. And there was no such thing as thrash metal yet. That term had not come about yet.
Yes.
The business card says Metallica, power metal, because they were power metal for a minute.
I love that Metallica had business cards. That's fucking great.
Dave Mustaine. It was Dave Mustaine handing me his business card.
Fuck yeah, man.
Like, it's just, and then like yesterday, okay, so there's a bunch of festivals I cover here in the US and UK and Europe, and two of the festivals had announcements yesterday that I do. Yeah. And I was fucking blown away. Like I again, it's the news of the world right now that Slayer is reuniting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was at their first show ever too. And they're my favorite band in the world. And it's like, dude. I couldn't believe, like, these dudes are my age, a little older, and the whole world is flipping out that they're going to be playing at Riot Fest and Louder Than Life. It's like, it blows my mind that you would think dudes in this stage of life could command that. Or look at Ozzy. Like, kids still love Ozzy. Like, I had Ozzy's Blizzard of Oz on 8-track tape.
Hell yeah, man. I love that. You know? I think there's something very encouraging about that, especially during a time, because if I was a pessimist, I would come back at you and be like, are you aware of the state of music on TikTok? And people are making literally 45-second long songs now to work the algorithm. Like, it's cool to know that what we're talking about is very much so a countering force to the dumbing down of art as well. That's exciting to me.
I can't believe you brought that up, because it kind of blows my mind. Like, I was even talking to somebody a few months ago about how they have changed how songwriting is done because of the attention span of half a goldfish that people have now. So instead of the old school of, you have an intro and then a verse, then a chorus, and a second verse, and a bridge, solo, third verse, chorus. Now it's like they eliminate the bridge, eliminate the solo, eliminate the intro, 2 verses, 1 chorus. That's it. And I'm like, man, that's not musicianship. That's just a formula. It's like I
Yeah,
call
for
it
sure.
an algebraic equation instead of music, you know?
And the reality is, just to be devil's advocate, is that the formula works in terms
Yes,
of
true
certain,
story.
if you want to achieve certain metrics, the formula works both with artists. You have like the Nickelback effect, where there's videos out there that literally takes the 3 song files of, I'm gonna forget the names, but it's like How You Remind Me Someday and something else, and layers them on top of each other, and they're literally the same song in terms of
Right.
intro, verse 1, chorus, where the solo is. It's the same key, it's the same BPM. You can do that with the vast majority of #1 country songs every year for the last 15 years. Like it literally works.
Yeah,
And that's
it
interesting that you
does.
bring that up, because I'm at this interesting threshold where, like, let me start this by saying that there's a ton of music like that I enjoy. I don't listen to that and be like, you're working the industry algebra, so just out of principle, I'm not into this. There's actually a lot of, as long as it's like well produced, like if it's still a good product and it's doing what it's set out to do well, I am capable of enjoying it. And there is a lot that I do enjoy. That being said, I hold myself to a very different standard. Because I've been this one man band and making music for so long, the my metric for success, or at least satisfaction, has been, I personally, Dave Perry, need to love this fucking song when I'm done with it, so much so
Yeah.
that I could listen to it repeatedly. I could even listen to it as an instrumental, and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And everything else past that is just icing on the cake in terms of like, is there one other person who can connect with the who could appreciate the musicianship or connect lyrically to what I'm talking about in the song? That's amazing. If commercial success comes from that, incredible. But that's like not my focus. And wow, it's interesting how those worlds come together, is that the last 3 producers and the next guy that I'm working with have all worked with like awesome bands and all have many #1 hits signed, penned to their name, which means I have many times now had that opportunity to do the formula with the guys, the fucking magicians, who are like, and it's not just like structure, it's literal like melodic choices. It's, let's use these plugins, let's use this drum sample. Like
Mm.
it's if you want to sound like Bring Me the Horizon, you can go to the Bring Me the Horizon guy, and you will make like the something as close to a Bring Me the Horizon song as possible. I am very specifically not on that path, to the point of having like respectful tension with
Right.
the people that I'm working with. And that's part of like that should be part of the process. I want someone to challenge me. I want someone to help hone my creative vision, because I'm trying to find that sweet spot of being undeniably fear of water, and maintaining what I view as what I value as my own artistic integrity, but still having something that has an aspect of like commercial viability. It's great if other people like enjoy my music and it's approachable, but like if you ask me to summarize what I'm going for, I would say, and this is overgeneralizing, but like if Periphery made 3.5 minute long songs that are catchy, but like have that level of musicianship that like a guitar player listens to it and they're like, oh fuck yeah, man. Like anything, any part. I want any musician who plays any instrument to listen to my song and get kind of that like stank face of like, oh shit, that was like a sick riff, as opposed to so many of those bands out there that are very well recorded and produced, but it's literally 3-chord rock. And that's
Yeah.
not me. So you will hear, and more, so you've heard Systemic, like it, right off the bat, it has these like orchestral, weird syncopated elements to it that you are just not getting in other music. I'm bringing a lot of progressive metal and rock elements into what I'm doing, but positioning it in a consumable 3.5 to 4 minute way. If you really pay attention to the structure, there's variations, and almost everything, like almost every chorus and every verse is going to have some sort of, there is no like copy and paste aspect of what I'm doing. And that's really important to me as the individual artist. And everything past that is, it will be refined to be, like, can it be shorter? Can it be more succinct? Is there a better hook that we can do? But at its core, it's really important to me that it is, I'm not going for that formula. I don't blame artists who do. You get a certain creative output for it. It's entirely possible that I will suffer commercially, career-wise, for that, but I'm prioritizing my individuality and my points of differentiation and my own creative satisfaction over trying to sound exactly like Bring Me the Horizon. I'm not saying that I'm better than these other bands, but it is really important to me that I won't compromise that. So that's kind of something I offer to current and new listeners. Is like I'm telling you that I'm trying to give you something unique and different within a very well and oversaturated category of music.
And I love all of what you said for many reasons. Number one, because I am old school, I'm from the day of the gatekeepers, and I thought it was such fucking bullshit, to be blunt. Like, I remember the first club show I ever went to was Motley Crue before they were a hair band, when they were horror punk at the Roxy, before they had an album. And then I went to Slayer, and all my friends were like, you got to burn all your Motley Crue shit, because you can't listen to Slayer and Motley Crue. And, and you had to be like, if you were Slayer, you had to be Slayer. If you had to be, if you were there, whatever you were, you had to stick with that, and nobody let you out of that. Just like, listen, when Metallica did the Black Album, me and those other 24 people that were their diehard fans were like, fuck those posers. We're not listening to them anymore. They sold out. Okay. Yeah. And it was stupid, because they're still one of my favorite bands to this day. You also read my mind, because another one of my favorite bands is Bring Me the Horizon.
Oh, shit.
And one of the things about Bring Me the Horizon that they have done, and they've caught a lot of shit for, is they just make the music now that they want to make, and they don't give a crap what anybody says. And when Ollie was interviewed, he's like, why do I want to make the same song over and over again? I get that. If you're an artist, that's got to be boring as shit if you're making the same song over and over again. So the whole point is you experiment. That's what a musician is. You experiment. When I was younger, I played drums, I played guitar, I sucked at both. I also sang thrash metal. I probably sucked at all three. But my dad, when I would be experimenting on the guitar, because I wanted to make like cool sounds, and he's like, you better give that up, you suck. And I'm like, you don't get it. I'm not trying to sound like anybody else. I'm trying to create a sound and create something different. And that's what I think you're doing. And I got to tell you, you have all these cool guest appearances on your songs, and I think that adds to that, because they're all different. So that means every song's going to be kind of different if you're bringing another element in, which, by the way, the picture behind me, the newest song, Systemic, I have a question for you. The whole time we've been sitting here talking, I didn't think about why I saw it before, but I'm looking at it, okay, and I'm going, is that Aaron that is standing there in the picture?
No. So this is the first time I've told this story, and I'm confident that he would not mind me talking about this. So no, that's purely an illustration. I work with this guy, Ryan Barrier. He's a guy who actually like grew up with Corey Taylor in the suburbs of Des Moines, and has close Slipknot ties, and is very active in both the photography world and graphic design world. Him and I got paired up, and he's done a lot of my photo shoots and has designed all of my cover art for like the last several songs. Really love working with him. So he created this thing. I appreciate both sonically and visually when I can work with someone who is a master of their craft, and I would like to think that I'm pretty good with words and articulating myself. And I know what I'm not good at. So like, I'm fucking terrible at design. But if I have a vision in my head, I am able to articulate it succinctly and in a very descriptive way as well, and answer your questions and give like actionable feedback. And when I work with someone who's able to be like, got it, like I'm going to do exactly what you told me, there's a huge value to that.
Yes.
And both from a sonic standpoint, all of the producers I've worked with have been really great with that. And Ryan has been really great with that visually. So this image is very much so reflective of what I wanted. And we were able to concept on that together. But that is a totally digital, that's not a real human. He did a really great job of putting that together. The song, when I wrote this song, I've been a Gemini Syndrome fan from the first album. I'm very attracted to not only like good, in my mind, good music is good music. Good songwriting is good songwriting. On top of that, if you do have some sort of unique point of differentiation, I'm very attracted to that. I think part of the reason why I like bands. I'm a kid of the 90s. I love Smashing Pumpkins and Eddie Vedder. Pearl Jam and Smashing Pumpkins. Eddie Vedder and Billy Corgan have very unique voices that are an acquired taste to many, and probably wouldn't sound super awesome if you took them out of the context of the bands that they're known for. But they have this like unique flavor that I really like. So anyways, I think Aaron very much so has a unique flavor. Again, in an industry, especially in modern times, you have bands who are dying to sound exactly like Bring Me the Horizon, because in their mind it means success and acceptance within a category and a fan base, which again, no judgment, but just not the path that I'm on. And I've always felt that Aaron very much so has sonically not done that. And like, if you haven't seen him before, he's just a very unique looking individual.
Well, that's why I thought it was him, because of the suit, even. Like, on stage.
I believe, I don't want to talk out of school, but I believe he is albino. So there's just a visual. He just looks unique, and he sounds unique, and I think he's a musical savant. But anyways, when I was writing this song, before I'd even ever met Aaron, I was envisioning Aaron in my mind for this song. And I was fortunate enough to get introduced to him. I sent him the song. He really liked it. But as he dove deeper into the lyrics, he's like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, if we're going to be in a creative endeavor together, if I'm going to have my name attached to this, I need to be at the very least okay with it, let alone, proud of it. And he is I would say, everything I say from this point forward is just my opinion. I'm not like officially speaking for him, but he is a spiritual guy. I would not subscribe that to any sort of established religion or text or anything like that, but he is a spiritual being. And the song specifically is about I started writing the song the day that Roe v. Wade was overturned. Ooh. And the song in and of itself is not taking a political stance in terms of like a party affiliation, but it is very much so making a statement about the objective abuse of organized religion, specifically Christianity, within our political system, to put forth an agenda that frankly targets and victimizes those who don't subscribe to your faith. And when you have elected officials whose job it is to specifically represent the electorate, everyone, like a Republican's job is to also represent the Democrats. They were just the one that was elected. And we've become so partisan that it has also become it's become such a team sport that it's been about like, not only am I not going to represent the opponents, I'm going to fuck the opponents. And I think that regardless of this should be regardless of your faith. This is textbook like separation of church and state. If you are using your faith and your religious doctrine to determine what 50% of our population can and cannot do with their bodies. Again, regardless, I'm not saying that Christianity is wrong. I'm saying as it relates to our country and our political system, that is by definition, by the founding fathers' intention, fucking wrong. Yeah. And it is becoming more and more normalized, and it's disgusting. And that is there are many examples of this, but that is a monumental example of it. So it's about using that religion as a weapon, which, by the way, is maybe one of the least Christ-like things that I can think. There's so many layers of irony that are woven into the abuse of Christ's teachings to ostracize and punish people who are not, true believers and are not on the same team as you. And you're basically subscribing Christianity as the official religion of the United States. And you're saying, fuck separation of church and state. I'm on a holy mission. I have a problem with all of that. So with Aaron being a man of faith, he taught me about what his faith is rooted in. And it's more of, it has like pagan roots in the idea of Christ is actually more of like a universal concept and not specific to like Jesus Christ and the man of Christianity and the son of the Christian God. And he's like, I just want to make sure that we literally went through and dissected all of the lyrics and decided who would sing what. But we came from a place of like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. And then once we actually like workshopped it a bit and we had like really direct, frank conversations about the meaning of the song, he was totally on board with it. But anyways, I'm saying that like for him to be the literal cover of the album would be a big step for him, because he started off with like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with the song. And I've already had like, the song's been out for a couple of weeks and it's gotten a really good response. It's getting picked up by playlists. It's being sent out to all of the FM stations that have been supporting Codependent Parasites. So we stitched it. Hopefully we'll start getting airplay next week. Gotten overall a very good response, but I've definitely already gotten an initial wave of complete strangers telling me that I'm going to go to hell, and this is clearly like the devil's work through this music, and that it's kind of proving
It's so stupid.
my point. Yeah, it's very, very stupid. Again, if you want the song, the like key part of the song is that what our country is based off and what the men and women who gave their lives to defend democracy and American values and everything, they fought for your right to express yourself religiously and believe in your God just as much as they fought in my rights to believe and know God.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty
the
sick.
founding fathers escaped that shit. That's why they came over here. They escaped that shit. What the hell?
Literally faced death and just made one of the most harrowing journeys a human could make, crossing the ocean and going into the lengths that these people went through to escape not only religious persecution, but religious doctrine in just the way that a community and a civilization is governed and ran and evolved as it's just the direction that we're taking. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen on both sides, but it's a little bit more dominant on one side than the other. And it should be rejected across the board. And your faith absolutely has no place in making decisions about our entire almost 400 million population, which is inclusive of, it could be fellow Christians, it could be atheists and agnostics, it could be of religions that you think are actually like apocryphal and in direct, spitting in the face of your God, because you have the right God, of course, and everyone else is wrong. And even within Christianity, there are subsects who disagree with each other. It's like, you guys can figure that out on your own. In the meantime, we're all living on the same set. We all have the same government. We're all living by the same set of laws. So how fucking dare you spit on the intentions of the Constitution and our founding fathers, and just throwing away separation of church and state, and basically making the proclamation of, we are a nation founded on Christianity, and of course our laws at everywhere from the state to federal level should be based on Christian beliefs and teach. It's like, it's powerfully fucked up. And I felt very political music can be trite or purposely divisive, and this is not like fuck Republicans or anything like that. This is a universal concept that I believe anyone who actually believes in actual democracy. It's an American ideal that I feel people should be on board with. So
have you heard the newest, most ridiculous shit that I just saw the other day? That in the state of Texas, they're trying to pass a bill to get rid of all guidance counselors in school and replace them with chaplains that don't need any education to be a guidance counselor. They don't need anything. They just need to be a chaplain. And so they're going to deal with these suicidal teens and teens that have all these issues. And their solution is going to be to pray. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's the exact same. I live in Austin, Texas, so I'm very acutely aware of these laws that are being pushed through. There's also legislation that's already been approved, and it is moving forward in terms of like having funding put to it, that all public schools will have this like designated statue of the 10 Commandments position. Like, there's going to be this uniform statue of the Christian 10 Commandments in front of all Texas public schools. Like, this is fucked. So like the Super Bowl, this happened the last couple of years too, but the CEO of Hobby Lobby, who was like a devout Christian, so much so that it is reflected in his company policies. Employees of Hobby Lobby are not like, he somehow, because of I'm forgetting the name of the legislation, but within our lifetime, this federal law got put through that corporations are people. And so the personal beliefs of a corporation are federally protected, including the religious beliefs. So Hobby Lobby is able to exclude any sort of birth control coverage from their healthcare plans for their employees because it directly conflicts with their corporate religious beliefs, which is so, I believe it's the Citizens United Act. Truly, truly, truly fucked. Anyways, that guy puts in hundreds of millions of dollars for Christian advertising, and in the Super Bowl this year, as with other years, they have had like big epic spots, which they've spent like tens of millions of dollars on, and there's two, that basically it's like a recruitment ad. And there's two things I want to point out about that. One, those tens of millions of dollars, again, from a Christ-like perspective, could have helped so many people in need instead of making a
if you're
Super Bowl
Christian,
commercial.
like you're Christ-like, why aren't you putting that money towards the poor homeless people that need shelter?
Yeah. And then the second thing is if so the punchline of that ad is Jesus washes feet. It was about being like Jesus isn't wrathful or whatever. If that exact same commercial existed, but it was talking about Muhammad instead of Jesus, people, and it aired during the Super Bowl, people would lose their fucking mind. That this 100%. Is about, you're forcing through Sharia law, and I can't believe my children saw this. And I was like, dude, are we all in the same country right now? Like, this is incredible to me.
That's why I'm in Costa Rica right now. Well, we're doing this interview. Yeah, I have to escape the madness over there. Like when I'm on the off season, because I live in Florida. Okay, and it's I think more insane than Texas right now.
It is. You win.
Here's the latest. Okay, so parents in Dade County, where Miami is, have to sign a permission slip to allow an African-American author's book to be read in class. Like, what the fuck?
Yep. Yeah. And again, I think it's very easy to conflate a conversation like this. Maybe someone of devout Christian faith could listen to this and immediately think that we are saying that they can't be Christian, or that Christian. Like, I don't want to speak for you, but nothing what I'm talking about is saying that like Christianity should be banned, or those people should not be able to talk about Christianity.
I don't think that's what Jesus was teaching or meant. I mean, he was a rabbi. Okay. So come on. And these are teachings not out of Christianity or the Bible. These are teachings out of Hitler's playbook.
Yeah.
That's why
there are many objective things that you can point to that verify what you just said. And it's become a political trope to be like, oh, everyone, if you don't like someone, you call them a racist. And if, Trump's immediately a Nazi because he said X, Y, Z. But there are like literal objective tactics that you can point to that were textbook moves by the Nazi party to establish dominance, and then eventually led up to the Holocaust, and doing things like book bans and doing things like doing like a Muslim travel ban, where you're specifically saying the people of a specific faith are not allowed to come into this country, or specifically identifying entire groups of people of a sexual orientation and limiting their rights, what they can and cannot do, where they can and cannot go, what they can and cannot be called, and then saying who you can and cannot read and what can and cannot be taught in school. Is like, these are all deeply problematic things that are being sold through to our country in the name of like patriotism and protecting our children. When if you just, again, you look at the parallels between the tactics of dictatorships and fascist regimes. And again, I'm not prescribing this to a party, but if you just look at it's happening in a certain area more than others, we should all universally have a problem with this. And those two things can coexist. You can be a devout Christian who loves the Lord and wants the best for everyone and not believe in other religions and hate sins and all of that. And you can also be a huge proponent of democracy that is representative of 400 million people, of the melting pot that we are, and the variety of backgrounds and immigrants and natives alike. Those things can coexist, but we're getting further and further away by treating all of this like a team sport. It's
how about we can just be frickin' human beings that care about other human beings, regardless of what they believe, regardless of what they are, as long as they're not intentionally hurting anybody, then people should be individuals and be human beings, and you should care for them equally.
Agreed. Totally agree.
And that's why we need music. That's why we need your music, because music is the ultimate uniter in a time now where we're so freaking divided. I go to a music festival with 100,000 people, and these problems don't exist there, because music is the ultimate uniter. And that's what I love about what you're doing. And your music is badass. And you know, I love that you're even uniting the music community by bringing all these guests together. And like we're talking about before the interview, we were talking about too, like one of my favorite vocalists is doing a song with you, Heidi. And, so it's just, and these are people that, although within the same genre, they're so fundamentally different, the people that you're working with, and their sound is so different. And to me, that's what makes your music cool, because, you're not writing the same song every time, number one. Number two, there's a lot of diversity in the music and musicianship. That's the key. Going back to what we were saying earlier, to me, that's the key, is musicianship. And people like you, quote unquote, one-man band, that's what I've always found, is that's where you find out the true musicianship. And also, when you're bringing these other people, like, there's no ego involved. Like you mentioned Grohl earlier.
Yep.
Okay. Grohl had no ego about Taylor Hawkins being drummer. Okay. As one example, and he has no ego to begin with. He's like one of the coolest dudes in rock and roll, and we need more of that, not just in music, but just in America in general. And people, you want to make America great again, make people actually give a shit. And the zero fucks given attitude, I really can't stand. Like, you should give a shit. You should give a shit about other people. You should give a fuck, and you shouldn't be such an asshole. And that, that's what I learned here in Costa Rica. Their thing is pura vida. It doesn't matter what you believe, what you think. Everybody is nice to you, gracious to you, help you, all this stuff. And I'm in a third world country, but yet the leading country in the free world is acting like Nazi Germany.
I definitely wanted to bring up that. I'm familiar with Pura Vida. I've been to Costa Rica, and the third world country thing is, I wish it was mandatory for all American young adults or adults to leave the country for 2 weeks. It's very, very easy to be at a level of ethnocentric where you just think the whole world is like America or wants to be like America. And that's a bad trap to fall in. So that's coupled with, if you need to see abject poverty and suffering up close, you need to go to a place like the Dominican Republic and see that there are these $1 billion all-inclusive resorts, and literally right outside of those gates with armed guards is mounds of trash and people living in actual like shanty favelas and roaming packs of dozens of dogs. And like these resorts throw out enough food to feed the country every single day. Like, you need to understand that is the dynamic of enormous portions of the world. You also need to understand and accept that there are countries who are better than America in many metrics, in terms of like their healthcare system or literacy or drug addiction or teen pregnancy or suicide rate or whatever. Like, and that's a good thing. We should aspire to learn from them and apply.
I've had that experience, by the way, because I've had 2 heart attacks surfing. One in Hawaii, one in Costa Rica. The one in Hawaii caused a second heart attack because the medical shit was shit. They charged me $400,000. Costa Rica, my insurance company would not give them approval to do a procedure to save my life because it takes 72 hours of their bureaucratic bullshit to approve the claim. So Costa Rica put me in their social security system as if I was a citizen and treated me 100% for free. Yet we're talking about people that are living like with death around them every day, trying to come to our country, and we're making a big fucking deal about them like they're some criminals. Yet I go to a country like this and they're going to treat me 100% for free, and I'm not a citizen. And I'll tell you, to your point, I grew up being my age, you're told, oh, don't leave America. It's scary out there. And I remember the first time I went to Europe, I was like, what the frick were they talking about? I felt more free over there than I did at home. And I just was like, I call it the big lie. Cause like and people of my generation and generations before a lot of them never did leave the country. So they don't know. They only know what they're being told and what they're being fed. But you're right. There's a lot of great countries out there. There's a lot of great people out there. And it's usually the ones like that have the ultra poor people that are living the way you're describing, that are the nicest, most gracious, welcoming people anywhere.
Yep, absolutely. There's so much that we should learn from and emulate and aspire to from the vast majority of the rest of the world. And we can still be like the coolest, best country, but we can actually
Right.
hold ourselves to a higher standard. And again, if you want to look at this through a religious lens, like that would be the Christ-like thing to do, is take care of your neighbors and your community who are able to help each other and those more in need. There literally is like a trickle down component of this when you take care of your population and you don't privatize the most essential things that people need to live. Like no one in this country should die because of very treatable medical conditions, and it just comes down to, well, you don't have money, it's you're gonna just be uncomfortable until you die. Now, like that's
Yeah. It's
criminal. Yeah, it's wild, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, dude, heart attacks while surfing. Like, were you cognizant of while you were surfing that, like,
No,
holy
so
shit, this
what
is happening right
happened
now?
was the first heart attack, I brought my son and his family in Hawaii. I was surfing. About an hour later, I had like this little tinge in my arm. I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just from
Yep.
paddling. Turned out I had a heart attack. They put a stent in. The
Yep.
idiots put in the stent wrong. So during the year of recovery that you have, I never knew. The doctors never knew because they don't give a shit and they don't look. And
Yep.
the stent was floating out into my main artery and healing over. So my
Oh
cardiologist,
my God, dude.
yeah, the cardiologist released me. He goes, okay, you're good. I decide to celebrate. I go to Costa Rica. I go surfing. And at first, I felt this feeling from like my head all the way down, like this weird feeling. I just thought I was tired, a year of recovery. I wasn't used to it, and it's
Yep. Yep.
paddling and stuff. So I surfed probably like 3-4 waves while having a heart attack. Didn't know it. The fifth wave had the massive heart attack on top of
Yeah.
the wave.
Yeah.
And I got back to shore, and like 20 ticos and ticas, for listeners, that's what they're called here in Costa Rica, ran over to help me, called the ambulance, got me food, got me water. If this happened in Florida, people would have stepped on me and kept going. Okay.
Yep.
And then just the way they treated me from beginning to end was just like, I love these people. They're like the most amazing people. And it's a shame we can't learn from them, because now even the people I used to like in Florida, I think, are POSs, because I don't know, they've gone insane. They've just like gone over the edge. And it just blows my mind. The people I think that would least likely be that are the ones that are the worst. It blows my mind. And like, the fact is that first doctor caused me the heart attack in the second doctor for the second time. And you know what? They just cared about another human being. So they made sure they saved my life without any red tape. Bottom line.
Incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, man, I'm very happy for you that the decency of others, and that's a part of their culture, and that you benefited in a literal life-saving way. I'm happy to hear that.
And if I never left the US, like you're saying, I would never know that. I would never think that. You hear stories about stuff here, and it's like, I would believe those stories and never known. So to your point, I recommend every American has to go visit somewhere else outside the US, and not at a resort. Not at a resort.
Yeah. And not
get
like
into
Canada.
the culture.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Dude, I went to Cuba 2 weeks after the travel restriction was lifted. Several years ago. I think that was coming out of Obama's administration, and that was forbidden fruit for my parents' generation their entire life. And it's right there. It's a 10-minute flight from Miami, and it's fascinating. Like, going there was incredible. It was like stepping into a time capsule. And again, you see this like abject poverty. You can see it's physically represented, the government corruption, the way that they're essentially, to really dumb it down, pocketing tax dollars, and it's clearly not being put back into the city. Havana is this really interesting pocketed mess of, you'll have this like couple of houses together, like duplex type things that are, they're clearly old, but they're well maintained and they're vibrant and they're full of music and dancing. And like literally right next to that will be totally collapsed rubble of their neighbors' houses that hasn't been addressed in years or decades. All of the cars, you hear this as a stereotype, but this is a absolute truth. 98% of the cars are all classic, incredible things that you would see in like a James Dean movie. Because that's the last batch of cars that they were able to get from America before these embargoes were put on. And they've just kept on like updating. You get in these cars and they have like window air conditioners zip tied to the bottom of and like they've just basically kept those cars alive for decades. And it's so cool to like walk down the streets of Havana and see these classic Cadillacs and Corvettes. And but these people are in abject poverty, and they were so excited to welcome Americans back into their country, and they took really good care of us. They were very appreciative of our business. And again, there was like those people have much more reason to hate us than we do them. And they showed us nothing but love and generosity and welcoming us into their homes and sharing their culture with us. It's like, we need to do the same. Like, we need to be better arbiters of civilization and better stewards of humanity in this country. And I think that can start or should start with art, and hopefully gets reflected, throughout other facets of civilization. But yeah, we're not in a good place, man. Things are not going well in that regard. It's unfortunate. It's concerning.
It's kind of scary, and it's kind of scary that people are buying into it is what's scary. It's like, but that's why we need music. We need voices like you, talent like you. And I want to add one last thing before we go too, is I am absolutely in awe of you, because I'm also a motivational speaker. So I'm a big believer in nothing can stop you from achieving your dreams. And and I don't know that the listeners know this, but you're clinically deaf. You were born clinically deaf, and yet you're making great music. So I think that's also a message everybody needs to know, is like, just follow your dreams and forget the excuses that are there or the excuses that other people give you. Just do, if you have the passion to do what you want to do, then just do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. My suffering has made me more empathetic to other people's suffering, instead of using it as a crutch and being like, woe is me, I wasn't dealt the same hand as everyone else, so that means I got fucked over, so I'm going to pass the buck and take that out on other people and feel entitled to whatever. Like, every hardship that I've faced in life has made me more empathetic and in tune with the needs of others. And there's always, like, suffering is absolutely subjective. And there's always going to be someone in a worse position than you, and probably someone that you can help directly, even if it's just treating them like a decent fucking human being, even if they believe something completely different than you, even if you don't like them as a human. Like, you can disagree with someone and still treat them with respect and decency. And yeah, if starting with the way that I started my life, and still even now entering a very oversaturated, complicated, convoluted industry with no label support, and just, believing in myself, persevering, being a good human, like, that is a huge part of this. Like, I've formed really good, genuine relationships, then like people vouch for me and people trust me because like I invested in frankly, friendships and strong professional bonds, that when you add the music on top of that, the business acumen and the just integrity as a man on top of that, have led to very fruitful outcomes, despite this being totally unconventional, because I'm not an established band. I don't have a record label. I don't have contacts at radio stations. I don't have this enormous social media following. It's, to your point, if I can do this, so can anyone else. If you're facing currently things that feel insurmountable, I assure you not to invalidate that feeling. I'm sure use that feeling, reposition that feeling, put that fire into your belly and overcome. And then once you get there, don't close the door behind you. Help others.
There it is. I love it. Tell everybody how they can connect to you on socials or anywhere else, how they can get your music, all that good stuff.
Sure. Every major streaming and download platform you can stream and download Fear of Water. That's Fear of Water. It's not, you won't find me by my name, Dave Perry. It's Fear of Water. And then also on all major social media sites, you can find Fear of Water. I'm very something I'm actually really adamant about, and maybe I'll hit a point where this is not sustainable, but I respond to every single message. I talk to every single comment. I am truly social about social media. I am here to actually build a community of like-minded people, of whom which I am appreciative that they're there for my music. So come talk to me, man. I'm happy to do podcasts. I'm happy to talk to you in direct messages. I'm happy to engage in a comment thread. Even if you don't like what I'm doing, like, let's talk. I am here to be connected, build a community. Music is all about coming together with people. I have a lot of collaborations that are available to listen to and stuff coming up, including on Tuesday, the 27th, One Day, featuring Heidi Shepard of Butcher Babies is I'm obviously biased, but I think it's a very powerful ballad that showcases Heidi's incredible range. There is a power and an intimacy to her voice on this song that you just really haven't heard in other areas before. And she has elevated the emotional currency of this song to reach its full potential. And I'm truly excited to share that with everyone. And, request Fear of Water to your local radio station. Let Octane know that you want more Fear of Water. Whatever you can do, add Fear of Water songs to your playlist. For someone as an independent artist at my level, all of those small things, any one-off thing that you do on social media or streaming site or with your local rock station actually really fucking matters. And I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you for giving us this great music. And you actually do qualify after over 3,000 interviews of probably one of my longest, but that's because of a reason, because not only do you have great talent, but you're a great human being, and
thank you.
Your voice needs to be heard. And I thank you for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
I appreciate that, man. I'd love to talk again sometime.
You got it.
All right, dude. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.